Hello everybody and welcome back to the channel. My name is Bob and this is my Dungeon Master's Guide series to Descent into Avernus. These videos are for the Dungeon Master of the group, so if you are a player or a potential player in this campaign, do not watch because this will contain many spoilers. The goal of this series is to break down the information from the book into manageable chunks. You can use this video almost like a pre-reading so that you have a bit of knowledge of what's to come in the book, or if you've already read the sections, you can use this video to reinforce the ideas in the module. As always, I will be giving you examples and my take on these scenarios based on what my group did. Today we get to talk about the final section in Chapter 1, Under the Villa. Now, as you've seen in my previous video, the Vanthampur Villa, which I will link right above, there's plenty of ways to get into the Vanthampur Villa, but really only two ways to get to the Under the Villa section. This portion of the book is called Under the Villa for a reason. It's a complex sewer system network underneath the Vanthampur Villa. We'll be going in order defined by the book, which starts with the descending stairs in room V7 of the villa. But we will also discuss how to enter this dungeon through V2, the stable, which is the second option and the one that my group took. A couple things we have to discuss first about going into this dungeon. There are, on page 37 of the book, there are a bunch of dungeon features that you want to be aware of. First off, lighting. The tunnels are lit. Hooray! So your human characters, your characters without dark vision will not need to have torches here, which can be very important, as casting light or having some sort of torch can give away the group when they're trying to sneak around. The ceilings in the dungeon are curved and as high as 9 feet in the center. There are green tinted oil lanterns that hang at regular intervals throughout the dungeon that emit 10-foot bright light. There's no gaps, and if you play on a virtual tabletop like Roll20, the official module does have all of the dynamic lighting built into it. Second feature to be aware of is that the dungeon doors are all made of reinforced iron. All the doors are well oiled so they will not squeak. They can be picked using thieves' tools with a DC of 15 or broken into with a 24 athletics check. Now, that means it could be impossible for some groups to break into these doors because a DC 24 check is quite hard for third-level characters. Remember, a 20 on a skill check does not result in an automatic success. In regards to surfaces, the floors are stone tile, the walls are brick, and the ceilings in every room is made of plaster. There are secret doors that can be spotted within rooms, however, the DC is only a 10, so even most players' passive perceptions will notice them. I also don't think that they should be too secret in this area, because you want your players to discover all of these secrets, as it's going to be important going forward in the campaign. A couple of other notes you're going to want to keep in mind in this dungeon is that you're going to have the option to have your characters disguised at certain points throughout the dungeon crawl. If the characters happen to take out some of the cultists, knock them unconscious, they can dress up like cultists wearing their robes and iconography. When disguised, this will give them advantage on any sort of deception check they would need to do when talking to the cultists. There are also imprisoned characters, NPCs in this area, and you yourselves may be thrown into these prisons under the villa. This could be an alternative to having a TPK when the group is entirely knocked out. If this were to happen in the dungeon, then they could get thrown in jail, which is something that you may have to utilize if you don't want your entire party to die. Okay, now we're going to get into some of the locations of the dungeon. There's one section that's going to talk about the hallways in this dungeon, but we'll get to that in a moment. Just know that a lot of these rooms are empty, and I don't mean they're empty with items. They do have a lot of descriptions, but there may be no guards or cultists in them. They don't have too much of a bearing on what happens in the dungeon, but it could be an opportunity for a group to get a rest in a room like a storeroom or a kitchen where there may not be people all the time. Think of using these as kind of checkpoints or hideouts for the group, rather than always having to stock them with creatures. This is not a typical dungeon. This is kind of like a cultist headquarters. All right, so the first room that your characters may enter is the cellar, which comes from V7 above in the villa. 4 stone pillars brace the 10-foot-high vaulted ceilings of this dry cellar, the walls of which are lined by a dozen barrels on wooden braces. One of the crates in this area contains 3 spine devils. The rest of this is mostly food stuff, so if the characters do need to rest and take some food, and they could do it here. But they'll have to clear the spine devils first. 3 spine devils aren't that challenging of a combat, but they can fly, so if you perch them up top once they exit the barrel, then this may be an opportunity to have some combat where they can't reach the characters with melee weapons. V21 is the wine cellar. More than 200 corked bottles of wine are displayed in 7-foot-tall wooden racks that span the west and south walls. Most of the wine is common, but 7 of the bottles contain fine wine, which prices them at about 10 gold per bottle. The rest of them are all about a silver apiece. V22 is the sewer tunnels. Now, I mentioned this is not a room per se, but it is the opportunity for you to throw in cultists, give them random encounters. I would definitely not let the group linger in the halls too long because it would be unrealistic that somebody wouldn't spot them. Again, going quietly from room to room is kind of the way they want to take this. Remember, the group is looking for either Thalamra or Thavius Kreeg, so they're looking for someone, and just wandering around the halls is not going to help them. They kind of have to strategize and plan out exactly how they're going to go from room to room, being stealthy or not, taking on guards head on, or trying to take them out quietly and disguising themselves as guards. That's kind of the mentality here. This is still a part of the stealthy operation that they may have continued from above in the villa. A typical encounter would consist of 2 cultists walking on patrol. Each cultist is wearing a thin gold mask, so that would be helpful for when they disguise themselves, and they have hooded cloaks. Something that's interesting is these masks are all actually unique. While they are gold and they cover the entire face of the owner, they actually will look different from each other. So guards may recognize the shape of the mask and associate it with someone in the cult. So when it comes to role-playing scenarios, you're going to want to also be able to have some of the guards, some of the cultists, recognize the group as their fellow cultists, forcing them to have that awkward role-playing situation where they don't know who they're supposed to be. You can make these combats a little more challenging by making these cultists cult fanatics, who are actually quite powerful. Most of the cultists, they don't really have a good to-hit roll, but they can use inflict wounds, which does 3d10 damage, and that's actually quite significant if they are to hit. They would probably try to take out the unarmored characters first because they're easier to hit, but if you were to hit with 3d10 damage or even upcast a spell, you're talking about quite a bit of necrotic damage that the characters are going to have to face. And if they're only 3rd or 4th level at this point, that could be deadly if they get swamped by a bunch of cultists. If they encounter any of the cultists anywhere in the dungeon and a cultist were to escape, then their cultists would run straight to V26, which is where there is a barbed devil. V23 is cold storage. There's a whole ton of meat in this room hanging on hooks. Flayed boar carcasses hang from the ceiling, while there are 2 remaining hooks that are bare. V24 is the dining room. The cultists do dine here. At the time of the group entering it, there will be no one there, but there would be tables and benches, as well as 6 tall wrought iron candlesticks placed along the walls. V25 is the kitchen. Hey, cultists got to eat too, right? They prepare meals here, although no cultists will be present when the characters first arrive. There's the typical furnishings, including a wooden trestle table. There's shelves lined with plates, mugs, pots, utensils, and jars of ingredients and spices. All right, so V26 is also an alternative starting point in the dungeon here. Characters could enter this Temple of Zariel. The iron double doors leading to this room has infernal runes carved into its arched door frame. Any character who can speak and translate infernal knows that it says, "That which falls can rise again." If characters are smart enough to listen at the door before entering, they can hear about half a dozen humanoid characters chanting in Infernal. Now, there is an awesome read-aloud text here when the characters do enter to set the scene. 2 rows of tall wrought iron candlesticks light this vaulted chamber, each one bearing 9 flickering candles. A 7-foot-tall statue of an angel with white, glowing eyes and a longsword, stands atop a dais to the south. A 6-foot-tall fiend, bristling with spines, stands west of the statue, glaring at 4 black-robed cultists who kneel and chant in the middle of the room, their faces hidden behind golden devil masks. 9 tapestries depicting the layers of the 9 hells adorn the walls. So there's a statue, there's a barbed devil, and there's 4 cultists in this room. Let's start with the barbed devil. The barbed devil's name is Odious. It actually has a name. It's sent by Zariel to serve the Duke, and the devil only answers to those 2. The cultists, again, are similar to the ones they might encounter in the hallway. They are wearing similar clothing, as well as a unique individual gold mask. The statue is actually significant here. The statue is of Zariel, obviously, in her angel form. It's a large object, does take up a lot of room. It has an AC of 17, 33 hit points, and it's immune to fire, poison, and psychic damage. But breaking the statue will actually be quite important here. If the characters were to try to take this statue out or topple it over, they can actually break it and find out that the inside was hollow, and there's a +1 mace that can be removed. The mace sheds light in a 5-foot radius, dim light for an additional 5 feet, and the wielder of the mace can extinguish or ignite the light as an action. And this lit up mace is actually what causes the angel's eyes in the statue to glow. This combat should be obviously important. Barbed devils are actually quite potent in combat, but one of them compared to a group is probably not going to be all that dangerous. They have a 15 AC. The big thing here is 110 hit points, but by 3rd or 4th level, your group can probably take out 100 hit points in 2 rounds of combat. Obviously, it depends on how many characters you have in your group, but a group of 5 or so, yeah, really like 2 rounds, they could probably take down 110 hit points. But what's great is they're fighting a proper devil here. Devils have lots of resistances and damage immunities. A barbed devil is resistant to the cold, as well as bludgeoning, piercing, and slashing damage from non-magical attacks, and as well as non-silvered attacks. It's immune to fire and poison, and it is immune to being poisoned, the condition. They have great dark vision, 120 feet, and they're pretty nasty. Barbed devils have quite a bit of attacks. They can take 3 attacks with their melee claws and tails. They can also hurl flame at distance, and they have decent attack bonuses, a +6 for melee attacks and +5 for this burning flame attack. The flame does 3d6 fire damage, so it's nothing to laugh at, and their claws do a d6 +3 piercing, and the tail, which is really the key attack here, the tail does 2d6 +3 damage. Now, one thing you have to make a decision on as a DM is how much you want to be able to summon other devils in this game, because they're going to be encountering so many devils, and almost every single one of them has the option to summon more. The way it works is basically a devil gets to choose to summon or not, and once they do, they roll a percentile dice. All devils have a different percentage chance of summoning a new devil. The barbed devil has a 30% chance. It's listed under the action, so I guess it could take place of one of the attacks here, or you can just kind of decide to do it at the end of a round or at the start of a round, which could be appropriate as well. If the summon is successful, a copy of this devil, a new barbed devil, will appear within 60 feet of the summoner. It will remain for 1 minute or until the summoner dies, or the summoner dismisses it. If your character is going through this barbed devil pretty quickly, then I would up its hit points. I do think this barbed devil should show the group that the devils are strong and that they are, to be feared. I don't think that the cultists are going to be too hard to handle, but the barbed devil should definitely be using its hurl flame until the characters get up close, and then it'll show how strong it is with the tail attack. V27 is just the escape tunnel that they could exit out of at this point if they wanted to, although there's probably more to explore in this dungeon once you get here. Alternatively, it's actually the entranceway to get here from the stable. V28 is the secret shrine. This room is hidden behind secret doors, although as we mentioned before, it's probably pretty easy to find them. The scraping noise either door makes when opened is loud enough to alert the room's occupants. And by occupants, I mean Duke Thalamra Vanthampur. She kneels before an altar here. She wears fine clothing fit for a noble of her stature, but doesn't carry any weapons. She does possess magical powers bestowed upon her by Zariel, her infernal patron. Now, there is an option here to fight Thalamra, although I'm not exactly sure on what your players are going to do here. So I didn't have her in this room, although if you do keep her in the room as it is per the text, she could demand that the characters leave. She could probably demand that they come with her and that she puts them in her jail. If the characters don't follow her, though, as I assume they wouldn't, then she probably would fight here. But she's going to try to escape. She will definitely try to live as long as possible. She's pretty tough. She only has 10 armor class, but she does have 78 hit points. She can cast Eldritch Blast at +6 to hit, and obviously Eldritch Blast does a d10 plus her charisma modifier, which is 4. She can also cast Hellish Rebuke 2 times per day, so that could do quite a bit of damage to characters that end up hitting her. She does make 2 attacks on a turn, so Eldritch Blast twice or 2 unarmed strikes. She does have a +5 to hit, and she does 4 bludgeoning damage when she hits with her fists. She also has a rule called Dark Devotion, where she gains advantage on saving throws against being charmed or frightened. I feel like a lot of characters are going to want to try to keep her alive and take her as hostage, which is probably a good thing because then there'll be more role-playing opportunity for the characters with Thalamra later. Alright, now V29 is a really important section. I think you have to really try to get your players to go in this direction. It's the prison. Now, although there are a few different things going on here, and different NPCs here, the one they're going to want to meet is Philaster Fisk, but he's guarded. The prison guard is a bearded devil named Thos, who attacks anyone it perceives as an intruder. Bearded devils are actually quite formidable too. I actually like bearded devils a lot because first off, their aesthetic is really appealing. They've got this really cool beard. In previous editions, the beard was more of like hair and actually seemed like a beard. Now they're more like barbed tails coming out of his face. But either way, you can describe the devil how you see fit. In terms of combat, they have all the damage resistances and immunities that I explained before from the Barb Devil. However, the Bearded Devil only has 52 hit points and an armor class of 13. Like all devils, they have advantage on saving throws against spells and magical effects. Now, it's got cool attacks here. It can make 2 attacks, one with its beard and one with its glaive. The beard attack is +5 to hit and does a d8 plus 2 damage. The target has to succeed on a DC 12 Constitution saving throw or be poisoned for 1 minute. Poison basically gives everyone disadvantage on pretty much everything they do, so that's pretty powerful. The glaive that he carries can do 1d10 plus 3 damage, and it also has a Constitution saving throw effect. If the character fails a DC 12 con check, it will lose d10 hit points at the start of each of its turns due to an infernal wound. This is sort of like a festering wound that does not close. The creature can take an action, making a wisdom check, medicine, of DC 12 to close the wound. And any magical healing will automatically close it. Lay on hands or cure wounds, something like that will close it up for good. Similarly, you can summon another Bearded Devil if you choose to do so. You just got to be careful as a DM with summoning in all the time because it can be cumbersome, and if you're trying to really make things a little more challenging, you could start with that second Bearded Devil, or start with that second devil, rather than having to summon it. Once the characters clear the guards, they can get the prisoner from the cell here, Philaster Fisk. Philaster is a spy, and he was an enemy of Thalamra, so for punishment, Thalamra threw him in the dungeon. Philaster works for Silvira Savakis, who is a tiefling expert of the Nine Hells. She is in Candlekeep. He was sent here to find out what was going on with the Vanthampurs and try to attain the puzzle box. There are a couple of things that he can say to the group. He will inform them that Silvira is a sage who operates out of Candlekeep, a good friend of mine. She's been monitoring devil activity in Baldur's Gate and Elturel for months. He can also say that Silvira is convinced that Thavius Kreeg struck a bargain with an archdevil and that the copy of the contract is signed and hidden inside a magic puzzle box. She asked me to help her obtain proof of Kreeg's crimes. Silvira is no friend of Thavius Kreeg. She thinks she can open his puzzle box and is willing to pay for it in gold or magic items. So if released, Philaster Fisk will take the group to Candlekeep with the puzzle box so that they can find out once and for all what exactly is going on with Baldur's Gate. The second prisoner is a fit, aristocratic human woman in her 70s named Lady Satyr. Now, she was kidnapped by the Vanthampurs to be used as leverage in the event that the Hunes found out who stole the shield of the Hidden Lord from their family's crypt. Her family, the Theon Hune family, actually were self-appointed guardians of this shield of the Hidden Lord. So Satyr knows all about Gargoth and the shield, but does not speak of it. In fact, she's going to try to get back the shield if possible. The shield, for the time being, is with Thavius Kreeg, so the characters may run into her again in the dungeon if they let her go, or she could tag along trying to get the shield back. V30 is the barrier of iron bars. The sewer tunnel slopes down gradually towards the south, channeling water and sewage into the city's sewer system. Basically, the characters just can't exit this way and go somewhere else in the city. 31 is the vestry, 4 wooden wardrobes standing against the walls in this area. The cultists store their robes and masks in these wardrobes. V32 is a connecting tunnel. There's a dim light from 2 of the cultist green glass lanterns. The dim light does not reach the end of the corridor. It creates pools of darkness. There are 2 lawful evil human fanatics that guard the end of the tunnel, 1 at each end. Characters with dark vision or their own light source can spot the fanatics. V33, there is cultist quarters in this room. 10 cultists gather here, minus any cultists that were defeated in previous areas like V22. The cult members are lawful evil and they wear black robes with thin gold devil masks. I think this is just the hangout. This is where the cultists would be. If there was an alarm sounded, all of these cultists would leave. I think something the characters could do is get a jump on them because maybe the cultists will be talking, they'll be loud, that there will be a lot of cultists behind this door. V34 is the ritual chamber. This room is hidden behind secret doors, as we said, not so secret doors. This 10-foot-high vaulted chamber has plaster ceiling painted with images of terrified winged devils. The cultists use this chamber to perform diabolical rituals that duplicate the effects of a divination spell, except that the spell's contact is a devil that manifests as a pillar of smoke above the symbol of the door. The images on the ceiling are pit fiends recognized by any character with a DC 15 religion check. V35, nearing the end of our journey here, we find Thavius Kreeg's quarters. Now, Thavius Kreeg is not here when the characters enter, but his room is pretty terrifying. There are wrought iron candlesticks topped with flickering candlelight. The room is heated by a cast iron stove with clawed feet. There's a modest desk with a matching chair, Other furnishings include a small table, chair for dining, a bed, an iron chest, and 2 tapestries. These tapestries are pretty awesome. One depicts a spirit rising as a lemure devil from the river Styx, and another depicts a dead man hanging like a marionette from hooked chains. A little bit of foreshadowing of what's to come in Avernus. The treasure in this room is Thavius Kreeg's holy symbol of Torm, which he doesn't really use much anymore as he is no longer a follower of Torm, but it is a silver chain gauntlet pendant. The symbol is worth 25 gold pieces. V36 is the Vanthampur Vault. This vault is basically the safe room for Thavius Kreeg, where he and the Shield of the Hidden Lord are located. The room has 4 wooden tables and 2 small wooden coffers atop each. Hanging on opposite walls of the door is a beautiful golden shield. This is the Shield of the Hidden Lord, which we'll talk about in just a moment, but you also find Thavius Kreeg. Thavius Kreeg is here, and he is hiding, cowering, especially if the group has taken out quite a bit of the cultists so far. Kreeg's going to do whatever he can to stay alive and get out of his situation. He'll also try to keep his puzzle box and his shield if possible. Thavius Kreeg is going to be friendly to the group, I would say, as long as the group isn't too onto him and doesn't understand exactly what he's done at this point. If they kind of know and they're going to play it like they know, then he would probably be aggressive towards them and try to fight or flee, but ultimately he's not that hard to kill. He's actually pretty weak. He has an armor class of 10, hit points are 40, and he doesn't really do that much. He has a melee weapon, a mace of a d6 plus 1 bludgeoning damage. He only hits even on a plus 3 to attack. So he's really weak, easy to kill. He'll probably beg and grovel for his life. Although later in Avernus, if you see him, he's in Amnizu, which is a pretty powerful devil. So he may get his chance on revenge on the group later. If the characters kill Thavius Kreeg or knock him unconscious and take the shield, one way or the other, if they get the shield, they're in for a wild ride. The Shield of the Hidden Lord is a wonderful artifact that you can use in your game. So first off, there is a pit fiend named Gargoth trapped in this shield. The shield is a legendary item. It requires attunement. Holding the shield will give you a +2 bonus to AC and resistance to fire damage. There may be a lot of fire damage to come, so this could be very helpful. The big thing is that Gargoth is sentient. He can actually talk to the group. The shield has an intelligence of 22, a wisdom of 18, a charisma of 24, as well as hearing and true sight out to a range of 120 feet. The shield can speak, read, and understand Common and Infernal, and it could communicate telepathically with any creature it can sense within 120 feet of it. Its voice is a deep, hollow whisper. The shield has 3 charges. You can use an action to expend 1 charge to cast Fireball, yes, Fireball, or 2 charges to cast Wall of Fire from the shield. The Firewall spell lasts for 1 minute, no concentration is required, and the shield regains all expended charges daily at dawn. Anytime during your turn, the shield can choose to radiate an aura of dread for 1 minute. This is not a power of the shield that you can control, so the shield can just do this at the DM's discretion. Any creature that's hostile to you that starts its turn within 20 feet of the shield must make a DC 18 Wisdom saving throw, and on a failed save, the creature is frightened until the start of the next turn. On a successful save, the creature is immune to this power for the next 24 hours. Once it uses this power, it cannot use it again until dawn. So the shield has a lot of power, and it gives a lot of buffs to the group, as well as the bearer of the shield. So be careful with this. Decide whether or not you want to use any and all of these valuable options, but I think giving them something that is pretty powerful does help here, because the shield is going to be something they don't want to give up later in the campaign. I'd also see if you can try to have the shield talk to a character that might be greedy, jealous. Tap into those kind of base instincts that the characters are just not going to want to give up the shield. That will add for a lot of perfect drama later in the campaign. Gargoth has a personality. He's going to talk freely to the person that is the bearer of the shield. Gargoth desperately seeks freedom, but cannot escape. So everything Gargoth does is to try to get out of the shield. He'll try to make deals with the group, try to make deals with the bearer, try to get them to get him out at all costs. He wants to be free, and he is pure evil. He is a pit fiend, so as soon as he does escape, it's going to be up to you, your discretion, but he would probably try to kill the bearer of the shield as well and go back on his promises. The only way to actually escape, though, is to have a creature of a sort of the power level of a pit fiend release Gargoth. And there are only a couple of creatures in the game that you're going to meet that could do that. Obviously, Zariel is one of them, but Bel, perhaps one of the other archdevils that's in Avernus at the time, or it's up to you to decide how many more high-level devils you want to place in there, but there are only a couple of creatures that could probably release him. He doesn't know that, though. He doesn't exactly know how to get out. So Gargoth will try to entice the group to head down to Avernus. He'll kind of be a voice in the back of the bearer's head, trying to get them to persuade the group to do things that Gargoth wants. He thinks that once he gets into Avernus, he'll find a way to figure out how to get out of the shield. There is one Hail Mary toss that could happen here that could get Gargoth out of the shield, and that is casting Dispel Evil on the shield. It's a 1% chance, so you'll have to roll a percentile dice. But if you do get the 1%, then you can free Gargoth that way too. Although, I gotta be honest with you, I would just say don't allow the players to get Gargoth out, because again, keeping him attached to a bearer, forming that relationship, giving him messages is really part of the fun. You can also really sneak these messages, and you can text your character that has the shield, all the things Gargoth is saying. You could write them hidden notes. You can talk to them between sessions and tell them what their character's hearing from Gargoth, and make Gargoth like an NPC the party has with them. There are a couple of other pieces of treasure in this room other than the shield. There are 8 coffers that are unlocked and contain money belonging to the Vanthampur family, as well as the stolen treasure from Tiamat's hoard on Avernus. So the Vanthampur was going to use this combined treasure to be able to bribe any patriarch or government official into supporting her bid to become the new duke. I'm not going to go through all the coffers, but each one does contain quite a bit of money, and this perhaps could make the group very wealthy and let them buy a bunch of items before heading into Avernus. It probably is a good thing. In Avernus, they're going to probably need some magical weapons, magical items to help them survive down there. So getting this money, or at least taking some of it and using it to buy gear, might be a good thing. So just to review, there are 2 ways to get into this dungeon. You can head in from the villa itself in room V7, or you can head in from the stables in V2. Now, both of these are valid options. In fact, my group went into the villa first, looked around a little bit on the first floor. They pretended to be a bard troupe, so once they were kicked out of the villa, instead of leaving, they hid in the stable and found the cellar entrance there. They came down into the room with the Zariel statue, where they fought a barb devil, and that happened right away. This was good, because I think what it did was it brought them right into the fire. They were able to fight a barb devil. It kind of introduced them to devils, although they had fought some spine devils. Yeah, so it wasn't the first devil they fought, but it was the first like really powerful devil. So it kind of set the tone for this basement. It wasn't such a big deal that they fought that first. And they knew right away they were cultists, and I had them be able to take those cultists' belongings and use the masks and hide and disguise themselves. So it actually ended up working pretty good. The goal for the characters in this Under the Ville section is to find Thavius Kreeg, but they also probably want to question Lady Vanthampur herself. A couple of other things they might want to find, and you might want to lead them to as a DM, would be the prison, so they can find Philaster Fisk. This will be a way to get to Candlekeep to find someone who knows the information. If they don't go to the prison, you can still have Philaster Fisk maybe calling out, yelling. There would only be one bearded devil left to fight. If the group takes the shield of the Hidden Lord with them, well then, there you go. One of the characters is probably going to want to attune to this shield, because it's a great, valuable weapon in their arsenal. But they will have to deal with Gargoth for the remainder of the campaign, most likely. All right, everybody. That is it for Under the Villa. That's also the end of the Baldur's Gate section of this campaign. But we're going to be going to Elturel next. I actually really like the Elturel section, though, so it's shorter than the Avernus section, but it is a lot more high stakes and fun that they get to see what's going on in this city that has been dragged to hell. I'll cover this all in the next video, but I hope you're enjoying these videos. If you like them, please subscribe to the channel below. You can hit the bell icon for notifications whenever I go live with a video, and every bit of support helps. Likes and comments down below to let me know how you ran it, how I'm doing. These videos are all new to me. I've only started this channel a few months ago, so I'm getting used to all of this stuff and the editing process, and it's a lot of fun, I gotta be honest with you. But any feedback or criticism, please leave it down in the comments below. Thanks again for watching. I'll see you on the tabletop. Bye.